Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to an updated mod spotlight on one of my favorite mods, Applied Energistics. Time to show you guys what's new and exciting since version 8 when I first did a spotlight on this mod. Now, we are up to currently version 12 and there's so much added that I really can't spend much time talking about what's new and exciting without just jumping right into it to show you guys exactly what we've got to do. So, without further ado, let's start showing you guys all the incredibly cool stuff that's been added since the last time I spotlighted Applied Energistics. Which, by the way, is now available for both Minecraft 1.5 and 1.6. So if you'd like to download it for your 1.6 world, give it a go. One of the first things I want to talk to you guys about is mod compatibility. Recently, Applied Energistics has gotten the ability to accept facades on the side of its Emmy cabling here. So we can see facades going on the side of the Emmy cable, no problemo. It's fitting in there pretty well, and it looks pretty awesome. So you can easily cover up all your Emmy cabling with facades. Looking good. You can also note that if cables are coming out of the facade, it'll look good, it'll render just right, it'll have that little hole in the side, so you can easily see cable coming out of the facade brick, just like you would if it were a pipe. So awesome looking pipes and all the other cool stuff rendered with facades on the side. Very cool. Alright guys, next up I want to demonstrate a very important and very powerful upgrade that came in one of the earlier versions. It's called it's basically different buses. So you guys are familiar with, from my last spotlight, the export and the import bus. Well, now there's actually three types of export and import bus, and I'm going to show you the important differences between them. The most basic kind is called the basic import and export bus, okay? Now, here's how it works. Remember, import buses import into the AE network, and export buses will export from the AE network, okay? So let's put some things in this chest here, okay? So I'm just going to put something, let's say like, we'll put some of these facades in here, and I'm going to show you guys the import buses first. Let me swap these out, okay? So the basic import bus, if we shift click it on the chest, we'll note that there's no interface here. So we can't right click on the import bus to adjust anything. And all it's going to do is it's going to, one item at a time, pull the items out of the inventory and put it in the system. That's all it's doing. The basic import bus is extremely basic and can't do anything fancy. Let's break that. Now what you guys saw in my previous spotlight was the precision import bus. What this thing does is, when not configured at all, it's going to do exactly the same thing that the basic did, which is pull out one item at a time. However, you can also specify which items get pulled out. So I'm going to go in here and say only pull dirt out of this inventory, and if I throw cobble in there, it's not going to pull it out. But it will pull out dirt. You can also specify with your precision import buses whether they should always be active, only active when not receiving a redstone signal, only active when they are receiving a redstone signal, or active for each redstone pulse it gets. So if you send a redstone signal at it, it'll pull one item out and wait for the pulse to turn off and on again before it'll run. You can also specify for the import bus whether to move single items at a time or entire stacks. So if I put this in stack mode, it'll pull the entire stack of dirt out at once. Cool. Now, that's what you guys are familiar with, pretty much. What I want to show you next is really cool, and it's called the fuzzy import bus. What this thing is going to do is it's going to be a little bit fuzzy about how accurate it is. It's not as precise as the import bus. Let me demonstrate. For example, if I throw copper ingots in here, okay, one type of copper, even though in this case we happen to have 3 mods installed that add 3 different kinds of copper. What the fuzzy export and import buses do is they treat all items within the OR dictionary the same. So even though we have 3 completely different items going on here, we will see that all 3 of them come out and go into the network. Okay. Now the important thing here to note is that if you use a precision import bus, what you're going to find is a little bit different. It's not going to treat all the different coppers the same. So if I go ahead and throw these coppers in here, you'll see it'll pull out the one type of copper, but it's not pulling out the other types. That's the difference between a precision import bus, precision being give me just this type of copper, and fuzzy, which is, hey, copper's in the OR dictionary, all 3 types of copper are cool by me. Bring them all in. You got it. So let's take a look at the fuzzy import bus again. Because there's a little bit other cool stuff you can do with fuzzy import buses. You can also do the same with copper ore, because they share the OR dictionary. Another thing you can look at is with metadata. So we can see the different types of wood. These are all block ID 17, but they have different metadata at the end there, or the different damage values. You can see them all getting pulled in, even though I said only one type of wood in the inventory interface. Pretty neat, right? And finally, you can look at damage values, okay? What we can take a look at with damage values is the following. If I put a wooden pickaxe in here, it's going to act like this. Let's demonstrate currently with a precision bus. Okay, so precision import bus. If I put a wooden pickaxe in, it's not going to treat these 3 wooden pickaxes as the same because some of them have damage and other ones do not. However, if I do this with a fuzzy, it will treat the damage values as kind of being the same, and it'll say, hey, no big deal. Now, why is it not pulling these out at the moment? Well, that's because he actually added some customization to the damage value, and that's this split right here. At 99%, it's going to treat fully repaired items and any kind of damage at all as 2 different types. So right now, it's looking at these as 2 different types. However, if I said, you know what? I want damaged items to be pulled out of the chest and put into the network. Then when I put all 3 wooden picks in there, we'll see that the 2 damaged picks are treated the same, but the fully repaired one is different. You can do some really cool stuff with that. However, you might not want to be that specific, okay? So let's take a look here. If we click this, we can change the split at 75. So items that are 75% or more are treated differently from items that are weaker. So let's put the fully repaired one in again. And you know what, let's put this one in here and see what happens. See how it pulled out those 2, but it left this one in here? That's because this one is more than 75% damaged, so it's treating them differently. And you can kind of do the same thing at 50, 25, or ignore damage altogether. If you're ignoring damage altogether, it's going to pull out all the pickaxes and not care about their damage values. Pretty cool, right? There you go. So all 3 came out of the chest. So that's what the damage value there does. And we've got the same thing going on with the export buses. So you've got a basic export, a precision export, and a fuzzy export. Now the only difference with export buses versus with the import is that the basic export bus does have an interface because you have to specify what item gets pulled out of the system. So that's the only thing you can do. You can only say put dirt in this chest and pull it out of the AE network. And what it's going to do is it's going to quickly fill the chest with dirt. So the basic export bus, you have to tell it what item to send into the chest. It's not just going to dump every item in your AE network out. Okay, so that's how the basic export bus works. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same as the basic import in that you can't really be specific about anything. But your precision export is pretty much the same as your import, and your fuzzy export bus is the same with the damage split comparison and all that cool stuff. And finally, I should note to you guys that the fuzzy storage bus is an option. So you have your Emmy storage bus and your fuzzy storage bus. This guy has similar functionality. So you can go ahead and put like copper in here, for example. So let's do that. We'll grab all the copper out of here. And what I'll do is I'll say, go ahead and store copper in here. All types of copper. See? So you can see it put all 3 types of copper in as a storage bus. Remember, the Emmy storage bus basically turns any inventory into an extension of the system. So we made this chest part of the AE network. And now all types of copper are going in there. And while I'm on the fuzzy storage bus screen, or in this case over here at the Emmy drive, I should note that there's a change to the way you set your priorities, and it's by opening up this little wrench tab right here. So in the past, you had to right-click it with the quartz wrench, but that's been added to the interface for the storage bus, so now you can set your priority. So if you want, you can go ahead and increase the priority. Remember, the higher the number of the priority, the more likely it is that items are going to land in there. So if you have a priority 5 chest, for example, items are going to fill up in there before they start filling up into a priority 4 chest, okay? So keep that in mind. So that's how you set your priorities. And finally, with the fuzzy storage bus here, you can see this little tab, Input-Output Mode. Read and write means that items can go into and out of the chest. However, if you were to go ahead and put it in read mode, they'd only be able to be extracted from the chest. And if we were to get ourselves some more copper, for example, and throw these in here, they wouldn't land in the chest because it's in read mode. If you put it in write mode, the items would only be allowed into the chest, and you can see those copper are not available at the moment. So the copper is allowed to go in. I can go ahead and toss it in there, and look, it's not available in the Emmy terminal. That's because the fuzzy thing is set to write, which means you can only put copper ingots into the chest. You can't pull them out. But we'll go ahead and put it back in read and write mode, which makes them available to us once again. Next up, I want to talk to you guys about the crafting terminal. You're familiar with this nifty gadget, right? So you can go ahead and put cobblestone in here, and you'll see that you can make a furnace. And when you craft the furnace, it pulls the items out of the cobblestone that exists in there. Now, one of the nifty features that was added is the ability to do this with NEI. So if you happen to walk up to your Emmy crafting terminal and you're like, hey, I want to make a furnace, just go ahead and look up the recipe for a furnace. It's best to do this in recipe mode, and just click on the furnace, and then shift click your question mark, and it'll automatically grab some cobblestone out of the slot here and populate it in the crafting slots. And then you can craft all the furnaces you want, and you can hit the X to clear the crafting terminal. Pretty sweet. Another GUI or GUI change is the Emmy pattern encoder. Remember this guy? This is how you can code your blank patterns so that if you're setting up your automatic crafting, you can do things. So how do we handle this guy? Well, you'll notice first off that the recipe and the pattern encoder thing has changed quite a bit. First off, you can store blank patterns in there, so feel free to place them in there, walk away. If you don't have enough items, so say you just had 4 cobblestone and you're like, oh, I didn't have enough, or you forgot something, don't worry about it, no big deal. You can go ahead and close the interface, go back in, and you'll see the thing is still there. Then you can encode your pattern with the button, and you can clear the pattern with the clear button. And of course, as always, you can simply right-click a pattern, or shift right click it for that matter, to clear it. So the Emmy pattern encoder has gotten a little bit of love in the GUI or GUI, and it's much, much easier to go ahead and do things. Very cool. Now we're familiar with the ability to go ahead and change the number of items and the sort order and all that cool stuff in an Emmy terminal. Guess what? You can also do that in an Emmy chest now. So you can go ahead and sort by the number of items you have, and in descending or ascending order. So you can go ahead and have the item you have most of at the top, or you can sort it alphabetically, or by item ID, or by item name, pretty much whatever you want. So you have a lot of different options here, priority and cell order, etc., etc. So you can sort as much as you want on the Emmy chest. Pretty nice. By the way, speaking of mod integration, did I mention that you can export bus items into pipes? Yeah, you can. Haha, that's pretty cool, isn't it? So you guys remember the pre-formatter? It's what you can do to go ahead and take a 64K storage disk, for example, and pre-format it to tell it what type of items are allowed to go on there. Well, guess what? That fuzzy functionality is available on the new block. It used to be called the pre-formatter. Now it's called the partition editor, and it's really pretty awesome. You can go ahead and place your partition in here. Looking good, right? Now, here's one other nifty trick, by the way. Before I show you that, let's go find something with stuff on it. If you place something with stuff on it already in there, okay, you can hit this button, Partition Storage. Configures partition based on currently stored items. Ta-da! So you can go ahead and take something that you already had and go ahead and click that button, and it'll say, all right, this is all the stuff you can get. So you saw me in my Let's Play series in the past try and say, like, I just want to have metals on here, and it's already storing all the metals in this chest. So can I just, like, click a button and make that happen? Algorithm got ahead and made that happen for me, so that is cool. But you can easily clear the pattern like that, no big deal. I'm going to put this storage unit away. There you are. What I'm going to show you next is this nifty thing, matching mode. Okay, so I can change the matching mode here. Currently it's on precision. Now I'll switch it to fuzzy, and I'm going to put just copper ingots in. Cool. So we can go ahead and format this, and this guy's partitioned fuzzy, and he can only handle copper ingots. So let's go ahead and put this guy back in here. I'm going to pull all the copper ingots out of this inventory. Now normally, okay, this guy, because he's partitioned for copper, that's where it's going to land. Normally though, it would land here. Okay, so right now he's empty. If we put copper ingots in there, we'll put in all 3 different types of copper ingots, and we'll see there's 3 types used up on that storage. So it's fuzzy partitioned. Okay, if we even take that storage disk out, and pop it in here, we'll see that it in fact did get all 3 different types of copper ingots. So again, there's that fuzzy functionality, okay? You can use that to say, share OR dictionary. It'll work with bee combs. It'll work with, certain types of bees and their traits. So fuzzy functionality, like if you had a specific bee trait you were after, precision would make sure the bee trait is on there, where fuzzy functionality would say any bee of the same species. And while we're still talking about the fuzzy and precision functionality that we've got going on, I think I should tell you guys about another cross-mod compatibility option, okay? We're talking about bees. That's right. He made some special cases for bees, and he actually did a whole bunch of programming specific to the interesting traits that bees have. So for example, we've got some imperial bees here, right? Now, in fuzzy mode, okay, all right, what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and they'll basically, you want to set fuzzy mode to ignore item damage, and then it'll do any bee period, okay? If you put fuzzy mode on anything but ignore, so remember over here we had, let's look at the fuzzy export bus. Okay. On any kind of damage mode, so any of these 4, okay, it's going to care about the species only with fuzzy. So you'll get Imperial drones no matter what. Any kind of Imperial drone, because it's fuzzy, but it'll definitely be an Imperial drone. If you put it on ignore damage, it's going to give you any kind of bee at all. So you might get any drone. It doesn't matter what the species is. But if you put it on one of the damage comparisons, it'll go ahead and make sure you get a precision, you'll get the Imperial bees, okay? So if we put these guys in here, not a problem. All right. Now, if we had a precision export bus, this guy's going to look at every single trait in the bee. All right. So you're going to look at their speed, their pollination, their flowers, their area of effect, the effect they have, everything from their climate to the nocturnal to flyer to cave. Every single thing that this bee has and knows about itself is what's going to be calculated during the precision. So if you have one bee that has, 2 offspring, and you have another bee with 3 offspring, and everything else is the same, they're going to be considered different bees if you're looking at it from a precision standpoint. However, if you're looking at it with the fuzzy standpoint, they'll be the same bee as long as they're the same species. Cool? Very cool. It makes for a great way to automate much of your apiaries and bee production stuff. So I want to demonstrate to you guys something new with interfaces. Remember, the interface is the block that basically has a lot of different functions. First off, you can go ahead and set it up to export items into an adjacent inventory, or if it's not set to allow those items to exist, they'll go ahead and sit in the interface here, and if you put items in, they'll automatically land in the network. So you can see here I just said, hey, keep 62 cobblestone in here. It's keeping 62 cobblestone in the interface. It pulled it out of the AE system. And if we remove that, it's going to remove those items. Okay, so we can go ahead and get rid of that, and all the cobblestone goes back into the AE system. All right, you can also use the interface to craft with. So if you get a crafting pattern, and I said something like, hey, if you were to be so kind as to place 1 cobblestone in here, you'll get a piece of stone out. That's because this is an electric furnace. So let's go over here and request that they cook up 1 piece of smooth stone. Begin. Is my electric furnace running? It is. Good. I'm very happy for that. Let's go ahead and request another one. Oh good, it's working again. However, sometimes if you have 2 interfaces next to each other, you might run into a problem because this interface, because it has multiple sides, might randomly go ahead and decide to put the cobblestone into this interface instead of the electric furnace, and that would be bad. So in order to prevent this from happening, just go ahead and take your quartz wrench and go ahead and right-click on the interface. An arrow will appear to show you which side it's facing at, and it's going to tell you exactly where it's going to place things. So you can see here, it's going to place things on different sides. So I'm going to go ahead and interface it to make sure it always drops the item down into the electric furnace. Now, anytime this thing decides to craft, it's going to guarantee to place the item down into the block below it. Cool. That's a nice upgrade to the Emmy interface. Now here's a brand new block called the Emmy transition plane. It's a pretty cool little device. Basically, it functions as a multi-functional block. I'm going to show you guys a couple of the different functions that it can execute right now. First off, let's go ahead and put this iron chest. Okay, I'm going to place the Emmy transition plane right there. Okay, I'm going to place the iron chest in front of it. Ta-da! Whoa, where'd you go? That is cool. The Emmy transition plane functions as a block breaker. Any block placed in front of it will be broken and sucked into the AE network. No harm, no foul. And it has really cool particle effects. Can't go wrong with that either, right? So go ahead and place anything in front of it, and boom, it gets sucked into the AE network. Nice. It also functions to pull items in if they're dropped on top of it. So if you drop an item in, boom, it's going to go in there. So it functions to kind of suck items in whenever they land on it. Really nifty effects, and it works perfectly. So I can drop this electric furnace in there if I want. See you later, buddy. Electric furnace lands in the AE system. So it's going to go ahead and treat it just like you placed it in inventory, or if you had an import bus on it, something like that, but it sucks it right in either in item form, if it lands on the front of the plane, or in block form. Cool. And of course, feel free to rotate it with the wrench. Just make sure you know where you're rotating it to. Very nice. Next up, we've got this nifty block called the Emmy condenser. Pretty new block, okay? Basically, it functions in several different ways. In its default mode, it's going to function as a garbage pail. So go ahead and put items in there, and they're gone. See you later. Goodbye. Deleted from the world, never to come back. Void pipe functionality, void chest functionality, call it what you will, but it's basically deleting the item from the world. That's one way to do it. Another thing you can do, of course, if you want, so I've got, let's see here. I've got a bunch of items stored right here on this Emmy disk. Let's see, what do we got? We got some dirt, some facades. Let's say I don't want any of that stuff. Simply place that item up here, and boom. Now it's empty. It's a formatter. It erases everything on the disk. It's now empty. There are no items left. Basically the same as taking all those individual items and throwing them in here. So again, completely destroyed from the world. However, we may not want to be able to destroy things. Maybe we want to use them for something cool. Yeah, we definitely do. That's when you might want to place a storage cell in here. When you do that, you're going to want to toggle this from the destroy items mode to the condense into matter balls mode. So you need 256 items to get a matter ball. Let's take a look. So I'm going to go ahead and place items in here. Boom. Note that this little progress bar accumulated some energy. And every item I throw in here is going to accumulate energy. You might also be wondering, hey Direwolf, what's this little check mark about? Enable deletion with shift click. Maybe you accidentally shift-click items into inventories and delete important things like, oh no, my minium stone. Not to worry. You can go ahead and disable that accidental shift-clicking by disabling it right there. Now, when you shift-click your minium stone, it's not going to go anywhere. So, by throwing items in here, instead of them just being completely deleted, they're actually being used to turn into matter balls. What's a matter ball, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked, because it's a really cool, nifty item. Let's go ahead and take a look at the matter cannon. Dun 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 dun. Matter cannon is one of the new tools available. Now, you're going to have to charge this thing up. You can charge it either in an MFSU or in one of the new blocks that I'm going to show you in a moment. You can also charge it with ME power or universal electricity power. Basically, any power that your AE system can handle, you can also use to charge any of your tools going forward. Now's probably a good time to mention to you guys that the nifty little remote tool, the, whatchamacallit, relay, the wireless access terminal, that guy also needs to be charged too. That's one that allows you to access your network from a distance. All right. Now your matter cannon is kind of like a nifty little gun that can shoot these ammo pellets. It doesn't only shoot ammo pellets, by the way. It also shoots nuggets. So any kind of metal nugget is pretty good. Lead's a really good one, by the way. That's just a little tip. The more massive the pellet, the more damage your matter cannon's going to do. To charge it with ammo, simply place it in an ME chest, and you'll see that it's accessible as a storage unit. And you can go ahead and place your matter balls in there, or you can place your lead nuggets. Cool. When you pull your item out, you'll see that it has stored 16 of 512 bytes. It's got an ammo 64 lead nuggets, so you can really kind of throw a bunch of nuggets in there or a bunch of matter balls. Now, just run out in the field and find some enemies. Let's see. Let's get ourselves some pigs. Sorry, you guys are always the test subjects, aren't you? Ta-da! Pretty cool, right? This thing also damages terrain, so watch out. The stronger the matter pellet, the more damage it's likely to do to the terrain, but it does have a pretty good range, and you can break things at quite the distance. Ta-da! Nice way to clear out some long-distance stuff. Just keep in mind that you are using your ammo every time you shoot the thing, so I'm only down to 23 nuggets. I've just spent a good amount of ammo shooting this thing out, and you can also see that I use some energy as well. Pretty awesome, right? So that's the matter cannon and how you make and use matter balls. But there's one other thing this thing has the ability to make. Not just matter balls, but singularities. And that requires 256,000 items. Yikes. And because it requires so much energy, you're not going to be able to store it in a single storage cell. Oh no, you're going to have to get yourself a storage cluster, which is a massively expensive unit that's used to make the 64K storage cells. Okay, so keep in mind that you're going to need the very expensive storage cluster to store all the energy to get yourself a singularity. But these singularities are awesome, and they make for one really cool item. Now, before I get into the quantum teleporter, yep, that's what singularities make, I'm going to show you guys one more new block, and it's called the power relay. Okay, so let's take a look. The power relay here actually serves a couple good functions. You can go ahead and hook it up right here. So the power relay can be used to charge up your stuff. So you can see here I just placed my matter cannon in here. It's going to recharge. No big deal. So that'll automatically recharge your stuff for you. So that's one functionality of the power relay. Another one is that if you want, instead of sending energy into the AE network via your Emmy controller here, you can use the power relay to insert energy into your AE network remotely over here. So maybe, you know, on the other side of your base you have some solar panels and you'd like those solar panels to help you charge up your AE network. But you don't want to run wiring all the way over here, especially when you've got some Emmy cabling already hooked up. Not a big deal. Pop down a power relay, hook it up to those solar panels, and even though the power relay is all the way over here, it'll help to power your network. You don't have to plug it directly into the Emmy controller anymore. Pretty cool. And then finally, if you want, you can go ahead and use it to send some power between two AE networks. So you might have two different AE networks going on. So let's get some of our AE cabling here. Okay, so we might have a network over here doing one thing and a network over there doing another. And you have power in that network, but you don't have power over here. So let's take a look at another controller. Aw, he has no power and he's offline. Not to worry, use your power relay to share power between the two networks. And you can see this guy is being charged by a power relay because his power indicator is blue. You can see he's online and he's using barely any energy because he's not really doing anything. So even though these two AE networks are not connected to each other, so let's go ahead and get a terminal. They can't access each other's network, so we can see this terminal is not connected up to this AE network. If these guys were connected via cabling, it probably wouldn't work out too well because you can't have two Emmy controllers on the same network and everything would shut down and be broken. Okay, but go ahead and use your power relay and now you've got two separate networks with one power source. Cool. So if you haven't watched my multiplayer series, you're probably dying to figure out what this awesome Emmy Singularity can do. Let's get ourselves one without having to spend 256,000 items. Emmy Singularity. We're also going to want to get ourselves a little bit of ender pearl dust, which you can go ahead and easily pulverize or macerate to get yourself a little bit of ender pearl dust. No big deal. Okay. And then finally, we're going to need some TNT. And while I'm at it, I might as well get a redstone block. First step in Emmy Singularities is to go ahead and place them on the ground. I recommend in some kind of hole or some area where you don't mind a little explosion occurring. Oh, this place looks perfect. Alright, you're going to want to combine your ender pearl dust and your singularity, and you're going to want to blow them up. Are you kidding me? We got to blow up these items? Absolutely. Now keep in mind, I dropped one singularity on the ground there, right? Oh, what did I get? I seem to have gotten two items out of that. Quantum entangled singularities. These two quantum entangled singularities are uniquely entangled to each other. They're not able to be connected to any other thing. Now if we got ourselves another singularity, and we got ourselves another ender pearl dust, and another TNT, and another redstone. Okay, so let's give this a little try. Oh, by the way, if you want, you don't have to use TNT that damages the terrain. You can use some tiny TNT. You'll see it here. Just some Certus quartz and some gunpowder will get you some tiny TNT. Aw. It's enough of an explosion to cause these guys to entangle, but it won't do much damage to the terrain. Not quite that much. So now we can see that we've got two different quantum entangled singularities. They won't stack with each other, and they're totally different from each other. I definitely recommend grabbing a forge and renaming these guys. So if we get one of those guys, just take a vanilla anvil, drop one of your singularities in there, and we'll call it quantum entangled singularity number 1. So not a bad idea to rename your singularities so you know which ones are which, but it's up to you how you want to handle this. So now that we've got 2 quantum entangled singularities, what can we do with them? Problem. We have 2 AE networks, one sitting over here with a bunch of stuff in it. I'm even going to, for demonstration purposes, pull this seed out. And one sitting over here, kind of doing its own thing and having just seeds in it. I wish there was a way to access this AE network from this one. Enter the quantum field ring. All we need to do is set it up like so. You're going to need 8 of these blocks, okay? They're pretty expensive, by the way. Not cheap at all. You're going to need energy cells, which require fluix crystals, very expensive blocks. And then in the center, you're going to want to place your quantum link chamber, which requires fluix pearls, which again, lots of fluix crystals and dusts. Pretty expensive stuff overall. Okay, but place that in the center and boom, you get a multi-block that forms. And inside that quantum link chamber, you're going to want to hook up your quantum entangled singularity. I'm going to put the one that I put the 1 at the end. Okay, now we're going to need 2 things. And you'll also note that there's a bunch of cool particle effects in the middle when you do that. Step 2, go ahead and get yourself some Emmy cabling. And run your Emmy cable to one of the corners. Or not corners, but sides, okay? So you can see there the corners don't connect, but the other 4 sides do. Now, you're not going to be able to power this thing with just the Emmy network, okay? It's not going to work. It's not going to drain power from the AE network. In order for you to actually power this thing, you have to directly connect it up to some kind of power, be it buildcraft, industrial craft, universal electricity, something along those lines. Boom. Once you've got both things connected, you can see the lights turn on and are blue. Remove that power source, and it'll no longer work. Keep that in mind, okay? Over here, we're going to build the exact same thing. And make sure it's the same quantum singularity that goes into the quantum link chamber. If you put the wrong one in, they're not going to hook up. Okay? We'll rotate this guy. Get some power going. And get some Emmy cabling going. And suddenly, we should be able to talk. Now you'll see here, unable to communicate with controller. Why would that be? Controller conflict. Aha! We're going to have to break this guy. So now that we've broken the controller, we can see that the Emmy terminal is working. Why is that? Well, because these basically are 2 linked networks, okay? So at this point, the 2 networks are connected to each other. So we can't have 2 Emmy controllers on one network. So consider this teleport pipes, consider it however you want, but basically it's a way to take a Emmy network and extend it over long range and connect it up to another area. Pretty awesome. Even though all my items are sitting right over here inside these storage drives, I can easily access them. Remember, the seeds are stored right here, and they should be accessible from here as well. So we can pull the seeds out on this side, and we'll see that this drive is now empty. And we can put them back in over here, and they're accessible over here. So while these are very expensive multi-blocks that require a lot of time and effort to build, they're very much worth it. If you want to have access to your items remotely, this does work across Mistcraft Ages, in the Nether, across the End, anywhere you want. So you can basically have these 2 things linked, and you're good to go. And I should also note that you can pull out quantum singularities with buildcraft pipes or any other kind of automation. Alright guys, I think that about wraps it up. One more thing I'd like to show you. Because Certus Quartz is so cool and was added to the game, we've also got Quartz Glass, a new type of glass added by the Certus Quartz and the glass. You can go ahead and make either Quartz Glass or Vibrant Quartz Glass, which requires a bit of glowstone. Vibrant Quartz Glass acts as a light source, so if it's nighttime, it's going to give off light. But check out this cool stuff. It's got connected textures, which you guys know I love. Connected textures are some of my favorites, and it looks really cool. Like I said, the Vibrant Quartz Glass at night gives off light. And it sparkles a little bit. How cool, right? Very nice. So with that, guys, I think we're ready to wrap up the mod spotlight on Applied Energistics. Lots of cool functionality has been added. A lot of upgrades and nifty gadgets and functions added to existing blocks, which is pretty much what the first part of the spotlight showed you. But then the second part of the spotlight showed you all the new blocks, all the stuff like the condenser, the quantum bridge, all kinds of different functionality that's available in Applied Energistics. And there's more coming. I feel like this mod has almost doubled in size since I've last done a spotlight on it, and I know the mod author has a bunch of other cool stuff planned, so stay tuned to Applied Energistics. There's a lot of nifty things coming in the future, and I'm really impressed with the massive amount of new content that's been added in just a few short months since I first did a spotlight on this thing. Alright guys, this is Direwolf20 signing off. Hope you go ahead and download Applied Energistics. It's available for both Minecraft 1.5 and 1.6, so if you want to start playing with it in your 1.6 world, go ahead. Alright guys, take it easy!